Number 2, Iron Man 3. Remember earlier when I said that 2013 was not a good year for movies? And that the two MCU films we got that year were pretty lackluster? Well, this is the other MCU film we got in 2013. And it's worse than Thor the Dark World. Before my number 1 choice, which some of you might know what it is, this was my least favorite MCU film of all time. Because this film goes from lackluster to disappointing very fast. The first act is actually well handled. You have Tony being Tony, Rhodey in the Iron Patriot suit going on missions to kill terrorists, Pepper and Happy being more than just Tony's second wheel, Guy Pearce doing a great job as Aldrich Killian, and Ben Kingsley playing one of Iron Man's most iconic villains, the Mandarin. But after the part of the movie where the Mandarin attacks Tony's house, aka the best scene in the entire movie, the movie goes downhill. Badly. Throughout the rest of the film, Tony doesn't change into Iron Man. I know that his suit got destroyed after the Mandarin's goons destroyed his house, but this film is called Iron Man. And he never changes back into his suit until the end of the second act, which was an hour ago after he was last Iron Man. Yeah, this film is pretty much the first Thor movie, but without the good aspects from that film. Yeah, I went there, and yeah, I said yeah not once, but 4 times. And like the previous entries on the list, excluding number 3, the villains suck. The Mandarin is actually a stage actor, and it turns out Aldrich Killian was the true Mandarin this entire time. Wait, what? For those who don't read comics, the Mandarin and Aldrich Killian are 2 separate characters. I know this is an adaptation, so of course they won't be sticking to the comics all the time, and I wouldn't have minded this change. But the way they do it is so stupid and so idiotic, it makes me want to play Sonic 06. It's even more insulting considering throughout 85% of the film, the Mandarin was built up to be this huge, scary threat who could finally give Tony Stark a run for his money, just like how he was in the comics. Instead, they decided to pull an unfunny 180 on us and make the weakest main villain of Iron Man's rogue galleries the Mandarin instead. Again, this wouldn't even be a problem if 1, the reveal was actually funny, and 2, if Aldrich Killian was actually a good villain in this film. There are more flaws with the film, but 1, these are my main gripes with the film. 2, the other flaws tie into with these 2 main issues. So I'll just skip to my conclusion. This film isn't bad, but it's very disappointing and an underwhelming conclusion to the trilogy of the man who started the MCU. Number 1, Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you watched part 1 of my 5 overrated films in my opinion video, you knew this one had to be number 1. I hate this movie. The previous four films ranged from okay at best and mediocre at worst. But I'll at least watch them again if I'm either bored or have nothing better to do. Unless I wanted to torture myself, I refuse to ever lay eyes on this piece of shit ever again. I already bashed this movie in that video, so I'll slightly sum up my thoughts on this movie in a nutshell. For starters, the characters from the first movie, aside from Hank Pym and Cassie Lane, who I actually think are better in this film, are butchered in this movie. Scott barely does anything in the movie, and most of the time he's just the comic relief. Hope is pretty much Trinity from The Matrix in this film, but done poorly. Lewis and his crew are extremely unfunny compared to the first movie. And Maggie and Paxton add nothing to the movie and could have been just cut out from it altogether. Then there are the new characters. Bill Foster is the best character of the film, and once again, Lawrence Fishburne is the best actor in a bad movie. Janet Van Dyne, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, doesn't appear in the movie until the middle of the third act. Randall Park is fantastic as Jimmy Woo, and I'm about to get into the villains right now. Then there are the villains. Ghost is okay, but Sonny Burch is the worst villain in the MCU so far. And it gets even worse because the actor who plays him, Walton Goggins, gives the worst performance not only in this movie nor his own career, at least from what I've seen, but the worst performance that I've ever seen in an MCU film. Even worse than Edward Norton as Bruce Banner. This film also suffers from pointless exposition that no one cares about, tremendously bad pacing, awful jokes, bad CGI, dull action, and mindfucks that the film forces down your throat 24/7. Other than that, I got nothing new to say that I already said about this film. So I'll just end it here by saying that in my opinion, Ant-Man and the Wasp is the worst MCU film that I had ever seen so far. So what are your least favorite MCU film or films? If you have any, post them in the comments below. This is Elastic98, signing out. Thank you all for helping me reach 100 subscribers.